Hey everyone, I'm RJ Ronquillo, and in this video we're going to put a spotlight on some of my favorite blues guitarists. I'm going to show you a few of their signature licks and how you can easily nail down their signature tones using the Amplitube 5 software. Starting with the king of the blues, or at least one of them, B.B. King. Now B.B. was of course known for his Gibson semi-hollow body Lucille guitar, but not everyone owns one. But for me, I think you can really get close to that vibe with a regular Telecaster. Now you might think of B.B.'s tone to be pretty simple, you know, guitar straight into a clean amp. But I've tweaked some things to try to nail down some of the idiosyncrasies of his playing. So B.B. is pretty much known for going Gibson, Lucille, right into a clean amp. So for this preset I chose the Fender 65 Twin Reverb amp. I didn't really mess around with the mics, but I did change the room to the small studio. I just kind of like the way the air moves in that. So that alone just sounds like this. Which is a really nice Fendery clean tone, but there was a little bit something that was missing to me, and that's kind of like this mid-range honk that I hear. And to get that, I like to use a graphic EQ to dial in kind of the mid-range. That's something I like to do, and you'll see that in some other presets. But I have the 7-band graphic EQ. It kind of looks like a Boss EQ. And I cut a little bit of the lows right around 100, and you can see that I boosted a little bit at 800 and 1.6K. So no really rhyme or reason there, just kind of playing around with my ears, and this is how it changes the amp sound. That's without it. Now here it is with the EQ on. It kind of sounds almost like a vintage recording. So that's one thing I did to tweak it. Another thing I added at the end was just a little bit of compression. This is the Model 670 rack compressor. Just to level out things a little bit. And that's pretty much the preset. Not a lot of things going on here, but they're very effective. And here is the B.B. King lick that I want to teach you. So as you can tell, it's very reminiscent of B.B. King. It's utilizing what we call the B.B. King box. And it's in the key of A, so A7. And slowed down, it goes like this. What I'm doing here, it's first string, 12th fret, we're doing a whole step bend, release, and then it's 10-12, and then we're doing a whole step bend on the second string, 12th fret, and then 10th fret on the second string for that A note. And make sure you have that BB vibrato, if you can. Another guitar legend who was very much influenced by B.B. King was of course Eric Clapton. Eric's gear and tone has certainly changed from era to era, you know, from the Yardbirds to Cream to his solo years. But my favorite era of his blues playing was during the John Mayall and the Blues Breakers period and the Beano album. And for this album, he was known for using a Les Paul, Marshall Blues Breaker 45-watt combo, and most likely a Rangemaster treble booster, but that's still kind of up for argument. Okay, so to get close to the Blues Breakers sound, what I did was I pulled up this JH Gold amp, which is actually from the Jimi Hendrix anniversary collection, and it's kind of a model of a JTM 45. And you can see on the right I have the normal loudness knob pretty dimed, and the high treble knob is around 1 o'clock, and you can see that I have the inputs jumpered by flipping up the switches here on the right, and that just gives it a little more gain, and it sounds And the cabinet I'm going through, so the Marshall Bluesbreaker combo is a combo amp, right? It's not an amp head. So in order to kind of get that vibe, I chose a 212 Fender 57 custom twin amp cabinet. I didn't really mess around with the microphones again on this, but I did put the amp inside of the studio room, large studio, just to get a little bit of a reverberation from the wood floors and everything, to mimic it being in the studio in England when they recorded. I don't know. I don't have any reverb on this preset. Any reverb you hear is actually from the room. Kind of that early reflection sound. But like I said earlier, there's been some lore about him using a Dallas Rangemaster treble booster. Whether that's true or not, I kind of hear it in those recordings. And kind of like what I did in the BB preset, I like to still use the 7-band graphic EQ and kind of play around with it. You can see that I also like to cut the lows on this. I boosted a little bit of the 800 Hertz and cut actually 1.6K. And it kind of gives it this nasally, I don't know, it could be kind of range mastery sound, but here's what it sounds like without it. Not too bad, right? But here it is with my fake range master. So again. So kind of like the BB preset, it gives you that nasally tone, which I really like, and I kind of hear it in those recordings, you know? Okay, so here's the Clapton lick I wanted to show you, and I actually took it from the Hideaway recording on that Beano album, and it goes like this. Again, 1, 2, 3. So we are in the key of E blues. And the lick starts on the 3rd string, and I'm doing a slide from 4 to 6. And I'm hitting the E note on the 2nd string, 5th fret. And then I go up to the 1st string, and I do this kind of repeated pattern, which goes 7, 5, and then a bend on 7 of the 2nd string, and a release. Right? So I'm bending on 7 and releasing, and then 5 on the 2nd string. So, and we close out the phrase with just. So the hard part of this lick is that little rhythmic play when you're doubling up that those notes. The key to this for me is just kind of, you know, using my muscle memory and letting my fingers do the, and not thinking about it too much and just letting my fingers play the notes. It's all triplets, so you just want to kind of push through it. So if I was playing a shuffle, like Clapton, Jimi Hendrix was another player from the 60s that was known as a rock artist with deep roots in the blues. And certainly a big favorite of mine if you've ever seen any of my videos about him. So thankfully, Amplitube has the Jimi Hendrix Anniversary Collection. And I've been a fan of this ever since it first came out back in 2007. And the coolest thing about it is not only do they have all the Jimi pedals and amps, but they actually have presets for basically every single song from the most popular albums. So for this, it's as easy as pulling up the Red House preset and boom, there you go. So this tone is fairly easy because we have the Jimi Hendrix Anniversary Collection. And I just pulled up Jimmy's Red House preset. There you go. And really, it's pretty basic. It's just the Silver 12, which is kind of like a Silvertone amp, the cab, which is placed in a garage for that room sound. And you get this kind of vibe. I mean, that's spot on, and it's great because, you know, there's no pedals. You know, we always associate Jimmy with having, you know, Cry Baby and fuzz, but I love this song in particular because it's just kind of like right to the point. Stick it on the neck pickup and go for it. So that's really it. So the Jimmy lick that I want to show you is pretty much from Red House. If we're in B, well, this guitar is tuned down a half step because that's what Jimmy would do. So let's just do this right here. My B, your B flat if you're in standard tuning. And the lick goes like this. Just a really simple descending kind of blues lick. And it starts with this very Jimmy-esque double stop. So I'm barring the first 2 strings on the 7th fret, and I'm hammering on the 2nd string to the 9th fret. Hammer on and then release. And then the descending line goes 3rd string, 9, 7, hammer on to 8. And then we're doing 9-7 on the 4th string, and then 9-8-7 on the 5th string, ending on the 5th fret. And one of the important parts of this lick is the phrasing of this lick is very important. Since Red House is a slow, fairly slow blues, and he lays back a lot rhythmically on this lick, it's hard to teach it to you rhythmically, you know, with a metronome, because it's more about the feel. But one of the ways that I kind of lay back automatically is if I'm doing everything with downstrokes, so no upstrokes. So if you saw that, all my pick strokes were pretty much all downstrokes. Not only does it help you kind of slow down and lay back, but there's also something about the accents when it's all downstrokes. Especially that part. It kind of helps you really lay back on the beat instead of... Arguably one of the most influential guitar players of the last decade is Joe Bonamassa. One of the reasons why that I think is because he studied and mastered the playing of all the blues legends that came before him, mixed in his own unique style, and what comes out is playing that's just oozing with feel and vibe and virtuosity. Now, like Clapton, his gear and his tone has changed over the years. But one of my favorite Joe B eras is when his debut album, A New Day Yesterday, came out in 2000. To nail Joe Bonamassa's early 2000-ish tone, he had quite an interesting setup. And if you look on the screen, you can see that I've kind of wired 2 different amps in stereo. Let's start with this one. So this is the Brit Silver, which Joe actually did use kind of a silver Jubilee Marshall back in the day, and he always paired it with some kind of other amp. For this, I decided to go with just this British lead, kind of 100-watt plexi type sound. And if you can tell, I actually panned 1 amp more to the left. So I just panned the mics to the left side for the plexi, and then for the silver Jubilee, I panned them a little bit to the right to get that stereo sound. And by themselves, the amps sound like this. So not totally overdriven, just enough dirt to get some power out of it. I'm boosting the front end of the amp with a couple choices of pedals. This one, the Ambassador, is kind of like the Marshall, I believe the Governor? So here's how it sounds. That's one overdrive that I was playing around with, and it's kind of known that at this period, Joe had a pretty big pedal board and had a couple different pedals that he would swap in and out of. So that's one option that I like. And if I wanted something a little more punchier in your face in the mid-range, I have the Satch Overdrive, which comes from the Joe Satriani set, and it sounds like this. Here's the amps by himself. And here's the overdrive. So compared to the Ambassador, it's a little more gain, but also the lows are cut off and a little more mid-rangey. Whereas the Ambassador has bass, middle, and treble. Now post the cabinets, I go through a couple rack effects, starting with the rotary. So I modeled this preset after a song on his album A New Day Yesterday, which is his first record, I believe, after a song called Walk in My Shadows, and on it he's got a little bit of Leslie speaker sim happening, and I've got the rotary speaker module. The mix is not up super high, so it's just kind of barely in there to give that little bit of rotary sound. After that, I put a little bit of tape echo just for a little bit of repeats. And then after that, something that I'll do if I feel like a preset or a sound is a little bit fizzy, the last thing I'll do is kind of cut some of the frequencies. And I have this EQ, and you can see I just cut a little bit at 8K and 6.3K, so kind of the upper mids. Just to turn down a little bit of the bite. So here's without it. And here's with it. So just a slight difference, but that's kind of like the sound that I was hearing on Walk in My Shadows, you know? So the lick I want to show you is actually from Walk in My Shadows, which is an F-sharp blues. That's not the lick. The lick goes like this: 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So it starts with a bendy phrase on the 3rd string. What am I doing? We're bending on the 4th fret, release, 2nd fret, and then we're hitting the root on the 4th string, 4th fret. Pretty simple blues lick, right? Here's where it gets tricky. It's kind of a rapid fire, I think it might be like a 16th note triplet lick. It starts with the 3rd string, 2nd fret, and I'm hitting that with a downstroke. And we're doing this really fast pull-off on the upstroke, hitting the 4th string, 4th to the 2nd fret. and then I'm picking on the 5th string 4 and 2. So it's downstroke on the 3rd string, upstroke with a pull off on the 4th string, and then a really fast down up on the 5th string, going from the 4th to the 2nd fret. Do it slow. And ending on the 5th string, 1st fret. So that's just the first half. It repeats it, but it does a variation with that first couple notes. So whereas the first part of the lick we started, the second part starts. So we're still bending on the 4th fret and kind of doing a hammer-on from 2nd to 4. And then the rapid fire lick again. I'll try to play the whole thing slow. 1, 2, 3. Alright, I hope you found this video to be useful and see how vast the collection of sounds are in Amplitube 5 and how easy it is to put together a rig and tweak it. Now there are many other features of Amplitube 5 than I've shown you in this video, so hopefully you got a sense of what it can do and how it can be useful as a tool in the studio, live, and basically something fun to play around with. Thanks again for watching this video. I'm RJ Ronquillo.